Doctor Strange was one of Marvel's best films to date, which says a lot considering they had released 13 previous movies up until that point, all with pretty impressive showings at the box office. In the movie, Dr. Stephen Strange starts as a regular doctor who's actually kind of a jerk and definitely full of himself. A horrific car accident robs him of his hands and actually manages to humble him a bit, and that's when they introduce the magic. Traditional medicine wasn't doing it for Strange, so he seeks alternatives. He definitely bites off more than he was expecting to chew when he's introduced to the world of mystic arts. He goes through a rigorous training regimen, and by training I mean mostly studying, and ends up becoming the new Sorcerer Supreme. Not too shabby, Doc. He eventually uses his newfound powers to defeat the evil Dormammu, your run-of-the-mill, primordial, interdimensional entity wielding apocalyptic levels of supernatural powers. Dormammu's the ruler of the Dark Dimension, which sounds like a lovely place, and wanted to make Earth a part of it. Instead, Strange used his ability to manipulate time in order to trap Dormammu in a frustrating time loop. No epic battle or fight scene, just a really annoying prank that made the Overlord rage quit the whole plan. Doctor Strange wasn't just a titular character in his own standalone movie. He was also a major factor in the subsequent Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. Let's break those down quickly. If you'll recall, he's the one who famously went into the future to see all 14,605 possible outcomes in the battle against Thanos. When Tony Stark asks, "How many did we win?" he replies, 1. Then he gives Thanos the Time Stone and tells Tony, "We're in the Endgame now." Oh, do I love me some foreshadowing. Strange actually knew exactly what needed to happen in Endgame, but held his tongue and stayed quiet, instead manipulating the situation so that that's exactly what would happen. I guess, in a way, Iron Man's decision to sacrifice himself to save the universe was Doctor Strange's decision? Maybe it's better if we don't think about that for too long. Another head-scratcher is the whereabouts of the Time Stone in the current MCU. If you'll recall, Thanos destroys all the Infinity Stones in Endgame, including the Time Stone that Doctor Strange handed over to him. In order to pull off the time heist, Bruce Banner has to go back in time and convince the Ancient One to use hers. Then, at the end of the movie, once they claim to have fixed everything, Steve Rogers apparently goes and puts all the stones back where they rightfully belong. So let's just assume that he handed the Time Stone back to the Ancient One while she was rooftop gardening somewhere in New York in 2012. That means that present-day Doctor Strange no longer has the Time Stone, right? That thing was, pretty important. Doctor Strange without the Time Stone is kind of just a former surgeon who can make portals now. Is he still the Sorcerer Supreme? And what does that mean for the upcoming Doctor Strange sequel? It's safe to assume that there will be one, considering Benedict Cumberbatch is still under contract with Disney and looks to be an integral part in the MCU moving forward. Here's a tweet from Roger Wardell, a notorious Marvel information leaker. Quote, Doctor Strange 2, 1980s Boogaloo. Tilda Swinton is in talks to return as the Ancient One. Jericho Drumm and Clea will make their MCU debuts. Clea will likely be portrayed by an Asian actress. Most importantly, the gloves will be back. Alright, so there's a lot of things to unpack here. Firstly, 80s Boogaloo is a reference to the aesthetic of the movie. It probably won't take place in the 1980s. Tilda Swinton coming back as the Ancient One is interesting, considering she passed away in the original Doctor Strange movie. What does that mean for the franchise? Will she reunite Strange with the Time Stone somehow? Is she just back for good because time travel means that anything at all is possible? Who knows? Nothing matters. We'll touch more on Jericho Drumm and Clea in a second, but the fact that Clea will be portrayed by an Asian actress is pretty cool. Marvel's trying their best, or at least as best as they're willing to try, to be more inclusive, and that's positive. Or maybe we're just lucky that Scarlett Johansson already plays someone else in the MCU. Wardell also makes it be known that the gloves are back. In the original Doctor Strange movie, the good doctor sported those epic dishwashing gloves, presumably to hide his scars. But for some reason, he took the gloves off for Infinity War and Endgame. Well, alert the presses and sound the alarms because the gloves are back in town. Huge news for glove enthusiasts everywhere. Alright, back to Jericho Drumm and Clea. In the comics, the former becomes Brother Voodoo, the heir to the Sorcerer Supreme title after Doctor Strange. It'll be interesting to see if they portray him as a villain who's coming to take Strange's spot, or as an ally who eventually takes over in more of a Falcon Captain America kind of way. They've already somewhat teased the character. His brother Daniel Drumm was also a master of the mystic arts and was the previous protector of the New York Sanctum. He lost his life in the battle with the Zealots, trying to protect the building. Introducing his brother Jericho, whose powers actually surpass his, already gives the character some depth and motivation before even appearing on screen. Meanwhile, Clea is actually Doctor Strange's love interest in the comics. Which brings me to my main point. Doctor Strange 2 will be a rom-com. Yes, I am serious. This has all the makings of a perfect cheesy rom-com, and it would benefit Marvel Studios to start shaking things up a bit and making different types of movies. After 20 plus movies of the exact same format, things are on the verge of getting stale. Hero encounters conflict, hero struggles to overcome said conflict, hero eventually defeats villain. It's the same movie over and over again, and Marvel knows that they need to keep things fresh if they're going to keep audiences hooked for Phase 4 and beyond. We've already seen them start to make some changes. Take Thor, for example. Dark World and Ragnarok were two vastly different movies with two completely different styles and tones. One was a serious, mystical action movie, while the other was more of a comedy than anything. And it worked. It rejuvenated the Thor character and franchise. Now that Phase 3 is all but wrapped up and the Infinity War is in the rearview mirror, there isn't anywhere for Doctor Strange to go. There's no imminent threat, so it would make sense to dive into his personal life a bit more and really develop the character. So who is Clea? In the comics, she's a sorceress and the main love interest of Doctor Strange. She's also, get this, the niece of Dormammu. You know, the giant galactic villain from the first Doctor Strange movie? I have just so many questions about this. I mean, first of all, Dormammu has siblings? How the heck is that even possible? And how would a primordial interdimensional entity possibly reproduce? He ain't going to the bar and picking anyone up. Is there like a special dating app for those types of beings? And if there's a whole family tree, then is Dormammu like his last name? Is it actually Mark Dormammu and his sister Sheila Dormammu gave birth to Clea? The whole thing will absolutely keep me up at night until this movie comes out. One thing this does offer, though, is an interesting dynamic between Doctor Strange and his new Flames family. I mean, it's well documented that Strange and Dormammu already don't get along, what with the whole absorbing Earth into the dark dimension fiasco. That plays into the rom-com theme perfectly. He already has a turbulent relationship with her family. I can just imagine the awkward Thanksgiving dinners they're gonna have. And does this mean that Dormammu will make another appearance as the villain in this follow-up movie? Or will they introduce a new villain? It could definitely be Jericho Drumm, or many fans are speculating that Baron Mordo will be back yet again as the antagonist. Doctor Strange also already has one pivotal rom-com piece in place, a quirky best friend. It really wouldn't be complete without one, and Wong is a hilarious character with some side-splitting moments. If they go the romantic comedy route, Wong would fit right in as the comedic relief sidekick. Perhaps the most telling sign that Doctor Strange will be a rom-com is the love triangle they're setting up. In the first movie, Strange was in a turbulent relationship with Dr. Christine Palmer, played by Rachel McAdams. Dr. Palmer was Strange's girlfriend back when he was a doctor and kind of a jerk. They broke up because, well, he was kind of a jerk, but they remained friends. She even helped him through his rehab after the car accident. And there was definitely some romantic tension between the two of them when they reunited later in the film. Insert Clea into the picture, and we've got all the makings of a Twilight scenario, right down to the fact that two of them are mystical creatures and one is just a plain old regular human. What happens between Strange and Palmer if Strange is suddenly wooed by Clea? Will Clea and Palmer butt heads? Will there be a fun dating montage where they go shopping and try on outfits, or go to concerts and jump around and yell lyrics? A romantic comedy would certainly be new territory for Marvel, but if they want to continue growing and expanding as a franchise, it's something they have to be willing to try. Knowing their track record and ability to tell compelling stories, I trust that they can pull it off. They know they've got their audience at peak levels of interest right now following Thanos and the Infinity War angle. The ball is in their court to try something different in Phase 4 that will keep fans on their toes and keep giving them new, fresh movies. You heard it here first, Doctor Strange 2 will be a romantic comedy. How do you feel about that? Would you enjoy a Marvel movie with a bit more of a romantic side to it? Or do you prefer good old-fashioned energy beams and force fields? Sound off in the comments down below and let us know how you feel about a Doctor Strange sequel and what it might entail. Before you go, you can actually do us a massive favor by pressing that thumbs up button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Behind the Screen to stay up to date on all our latest and greatest releases. Until next time, bye!